adjusting the faders here, I think. Just slide over.
All right, guys. So we're gonna start now, no matter what. Like, if it sounds terrible, let us know in the comments. There's 13 people watching. That's like a combined pool of IQ points. That can, together we can troubleshoot if something goes terribly wrong. But anyway, yeah. Eli, thanks for having us.
Yeah, pleasure to see you guys, man. I always love seeing you. Tom, good to see you, man.
Also,
I see you, Eli.
shout out to Rob and Steffi behind the scenes there.
Rob and Steffi, always around.
So for those who don't know, we are here in Rosen Sounds, this very beautiful space in LA, where synths go to heaven, I guess, or are resurrected.
Resurrected, yeah.
Resurrected, yeah. And yeah, so we're here for some inspiration and to show the Motor Synth version number 2, which is available now.
Yeah.
Since
awesome.
2 days ago or 1 day ago or something like that.
So last time you guys were here, I don't remember how many months ago that was, but you guys had
it was June.
prototype.
It wasn't a prototype. It was well, yeah, it was essentially like the same synth in terms of analog, in terms of the circuitry and in terms of the construction.
Right.
But we were still tweaking the firmware to a point where we felt it's not ready yet. So, but we still were able to show most of the sounds. But since then, we've been adding and adding and adding features and things things that make your life easier. And we've invented some new functions. And I guess, I guess the perfect scenario would be to just make you kind of LA's leading expert on the motor synth. Yeah.
I would be honored, guys.
Yeah, we'd like to show a lot of the basic idea is there. There's plenty of sound examples already.
Mm-hmm.
We've posted some, and we're going to be playing some sounds, and obviously, that's the most important thing. But there's a lot of very cool things that I think we've kind of designed in a unique way in terms of the interface, and it would be nice to run over all those features and also answer all the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of questions, please write the questions in the comments below, and the best question gets a T-shirt.
Best question.
Yeah, and we'll decide what is a best question, what counts as the best question, the funniest or the hardest one to answer, the one that just sticks to in our memories.
I'm going to be doing my best to beat all those questions.
Oh yeah,
I'm
okay.
going to get the T-shirt.
You want the T-shirt?
I hope
Okay,
everyone
okay.
at home can come up with something good.
You should see the T-shirt. It's quite amazing.
Okay, we actually have a few questions in there already, but let's start with what you want to show to Eli, and keep the synth down a bit because our mics apparently are way lower than the synthesizer.
If I could say one thing before we get started, we hear a lot of stuff here at Rosen Sound. We mostly restore analog synths, and we've got our studio here that you guys have been to a number of times, where we've pretty much heard every synth out there. And I think to us, the thing that we notice with anything that we hear, new or old, is how does it sound? How is the quality of sound? Is it exciting to the ears? Does it sound good? And immediately when you guys brought this to us a number of months ago, and when you were there and when you guys left, we were talking about how awesome it sounded. I mean, a synth can have all the features in the world, but if it doesn't sound great, it almost doesn't matter. And believe me, we've encountered some synths that have amazing features that sound terrible, but this thing sounds awesome. So I'm excited to hear it again.
Thanks for saying that. Yeah, definitely. Exactly. Before
come closer.
Okay.
Before we dive into the specific button configurations, of course the core sound has to be there, but kind of when we started building the motor synth, we knew that there's gonna be a sound, definitely, and that's the part of our philosophy behind choosing which project to complete, is that kind of asking this question, like, what does it offer something new? So obviously there are people who are watching now who already know about the motor synth. There's also probably some motor synth Mark I owners, but the main point is that there is so many amazing synths out there that you cannot compete with. So You know, and there's you can get all kinds of sounds on the computer with VSTs. Some of them.
But that's no fun.
It can be fun. It can be fun.
It can be fun.
But if you're gonna build something, we wanted to make sure that whatever comes out, it's gonna be different. It's gonna have something. It's gonna have some, you know, some unique characteristic to it. So here, it's the uniqueness of the sound comes out of the imperfections and the limitations of those motors. Although we've worked years to ensure that those limitations are, you know, compensated by other things. So, but yes, the motor oscillators is the star of the show, kind of. So let's see if we get sound. We are cheating a little bit. We've applied some reverb. It's called vintage verb on the DAW here. But let's take it off for a second. Tom, could you unmute the verb? Like press the A upwards. Okay, so this is the motor oscillator, right? And I've got it just on a like latch to one note. So straight away, it's a sound. It's very, we've got a little oscilloscope here. So sorry. Okay, this would be better. A representation of. So the previous tone was the two motor oscillators going into, but they were cross-modding each other. So that was this sound. So apologies for that. But yeah, let's listen to one single motor oscillator, and what happens is that when we switch the scale switch, the motor driver begins driving the motors twice as fast instantly. So, and right now we're listening to the optical waveform, which is the saw. And you can see it on this oscilloscope here, that this is the imperfect nature of that sawtooth. So, do you know, has somebody already shown you like the idea about the optical wave shapes?
Yes, last time you guys were here.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to talk about it, go over it again.
Yeah, sure. So the optical wave shapes are created. So they're created by we're using a set of reflective discs that's mounted on top of each motor shaft. So as the motors rotate, the discs spin along, and on the underside of those reflective discs, we have 3 tracks essentially. So one is the sine wave track, then there's the sawtooth wave track, and then there's the square tooth wave track. So it's a circular graphical representation of a wave shape.
Of the waveform, yeah. It
Yeah.
looks like peaks and valleys, as if you were looking from the top down. Like if you're in the heli and you're looking from top down, it looks like, you know, peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
So if you look at the underside, we could see it with our naked eye here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what the idea is that so there for each track that contains the waveform, there's a set of like infrared optical emitter and receiver. Mm-hmm. So the idea is that like if the optical emitter bounces a ray and the ray gets reflected from the surface back into the receiver, then we get a pure signal. And then the graphical patterns that are printed on the tracks, they are interrupting that signal.
Gotcha.
We're using basically a black gradient kind of coloration that absorbs that reflection, or just when it's not covered, then it reflects it back in. So, for example, with the square, you can see it maybe on the oscilloscope. This is as close as we could get it to look like a square, because we're using this weird, strange, like natural kind of, we're dealing with a natural kind of, we're dealing with real materials and reflections. So nothing is perfectly aligned, nothing is ideally,
It has a great sound to it though, and it does
has
sound
a
like a
sound.
pulse wave.
it does.
Yeah.
But there is no wave shaping possibility because
course, it's the image.
the spaces between the duty cycle is imprinted in the So
Well, however you guys selected it, it sounds big.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now, for example, one thing we can do, we can adjust the volume straight away of these optical wave shapes. So this is the sawtooth. Yeah. And this is the sine right now. So before we get to the filters, because most of the sound sculpting, like a big part of the sound sculpting definitely comes from the filters. So one thing we can do is that we can, for example, if we have one square wave here, we can add a second oscillator. So there are two identical motor voices, and if we set them to the same, for example, scale, we can mix those. Like waveforms together. One can be on the sine and a higher scale. So now you can get a little bit more complex signal on the oscilloscope, obviously.
They gel really nicely together, whatever's going on in the filter
Yeah.
section or mixer section.
And
is
right
doing
now
a
we've
good
got
job.
both each voice going to a separate channel, right?
Okay.
And they're slightly panned, or are they hard panned?
They're slightly panned.
They're slightly panned.
Yeah.
But yeah, something that one of the things we want to accomplish today is we want to give away a bunch of like hidden things that are not obviously on the surface.
Gotcha.
So for example, this is a single TRS output for the motor synth, and you can just plug in a cable and a mono cable and route everything to one channel, or you can plug in a TRS and split them,
Right.
split voice 1 and voice
Insert
2.
cable.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Mhm.
So all right. So that's that. And second thing I wanted to show is like, let's go back to hearing just one voice. Here we've got a pop-up on screen that says tone settings.
Okay.
So whenever you touch the volume thing, you can enter this screen here.
So you're touching the volume thing, and then you.
And then
Press
then that triggers the pop-up. So
Okay.
exit button is here. So whenever we touch this, that gives us a pop-up, and we can enter into tone settings. So now it says mode scale, right? That means that the tone setting is kind of gradually adjusted based on the scale setting you have here on the oscillator. So kind of like enhancement, the idea behind this is like there's a second analog kind of EQ section that's hidden, not hidden, it's just, it doesn't have a dedicated knob. The Mark I synth did have a dedicated tone knob. Here we've taken that out to expand on the pitch envelope section. But we still have kept that analog EQ stage, only it's now accessible as a deeper feature.
Seems pretty quick to get to.
Yeah, it's cool, it's fine. And then here in manual mode, you can use the screen encoders to, so
It's
now
sort
you
of a
can,
tilt, is that right?
it's
Yeah,
a tilt,
yeah,
yeah.
right, yeah.
So now you can do the bass. Boost the bass, or make it a little bit brighter, so which is,
Even if you're in the lower scale.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now
So
we
this
have,
would be the same. This would be the same as the Mark I functions.
So
Very
this-
effective.
this is the scope for the tone. Yeah, because you know, if you're listening to a sawtooth, which is not perfect as we have already established, like it's just all over the place, kind of. We at least want to get that, you know, cutting, like buzzy kind of things to make sure like it cuts through everything. So before you start, you know, messing around with the filter, you want to have the source as bright as possible, probably. So like that. Yeah, it's a useful thing to have. And then if we go all the way down and make it like this, then that's better for creating bass.
It's great to have that along with the filter. It seems like you could do a lot
Yeah,
of tone
and then
sculpting
with the
with that.
filter, yeah, we can start opening up. But we'll get to the filter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Tom, can you give me that mouse, please?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm gonna turn my microphone down a little bit because they're saying it's a little bit too much. All right. So that's one thing that's obvious difference between the Mark II and Mark I, that we've gotten rid of the tone knob, and we've just kind of kept the feature, but it's a little bit hidden. But
So maybe you can show what is there in the MK2 where the tone knob used to be.
yeah, so here we've used that space, we've used that same location, and we've assigned it to one of the to the pitch envelope. So we've got this. So one of the cool things about the motor synth in general is that is the sound of accelerating motors, like the sound kind of like this, right?
That's great.
So, you know, these motors, in contrast to conventional oscillators, when you're changing the pitch, oscillators would jump from one frequency to the other frequency instantaneously.
Right.
Motors cannot do that.
Right.
So
You can get close.
Yeah, you
So
can
for
get
example,
close.
that-
So
like
there's
let's do like for example, so this is the low note, right? And we can do a massive jump.
There's some glide.
Yeah,
right?
There's some glide, like,
some
whoop,
glide.
Yep.
like,
And
Which
for
is cool.
for bigger jumps in frequency, the glide is a bit longer, and for smaller jumps, it's shorter, and to the point where you don't really hear it as glides,
Right.
but it just changes the attack of the sound a little bit. So from that, we got the idea that we should expand upon that, and that's where the whole acceleration and brake section in the synthesizer comes from.
It's a great name too. It makes me excited about
It's
it.
like an alternative name for pitch envelopes.
Right, right.
Essentially, it is a pitch envelope,
Yeah.
but acceleration and brake sounds a bit cooler.
So the
like it.
acceleration is the first part, like the attack stage.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of the pitch envelope, yeah.
And the brake is the release part,
Yeah.
in
Okay.
so many words.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is that you can set, this kind of system is augmented by these from and to controls,
Okay.
which is a center indent pot. So for example, we're still talking about voice 1 here, so I've got everything else turned down. Right? So one thing we can do is, so first thing we can do is we can set the from interval. The lowest one would be 12 semitones below the target note.
Okay.
That means that, so this note, if I have acceleration like dialed up, so now it's giving me a whole octave. We can try and see how that sounds in the arpeggio. So you can see on the screen.
Gets nice and rubbery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can reduce the acceleration to get more of a curve.
Get movement. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a master curve control, which lets you change the,
Overall shape.
the overall shape of this.
That affects it quite a lot. Also, talk to me about this amazing graphical representation with these 4 lines. This is almost reminding me of a favorite video game from my childhood. What am I seeing with these lines here? Is this just each note and the
Yeah, the motor
pitch
the
envelope?
motor synth
Yeah.
with its 8 motors and
Yes.
2 motor voices. It's a 4-note polyphonic instrument.
Got you.
It's not true polyphonic because there's a single filter
For each layer.
for each voice. So it's 4-note paraphonic. Is that correct? Yeah.
So is each line representing where the pitch is for each of those
Yeah.
voices?
Yeah, for each of
Got
those
you.
motors.
Okay.
So
So maybe you can show it with a polyphonic chord instead of the arpeggiator, and you'll get a better
Yeah.
idea on what's going on.
So 3 notes. I hope these 3 notes will sound good. Let's do. I'm
So
gonna
it's really
just
sort of an activity meter in a way.
Sorry. I'm gonna just record that. Oh shit, not this. Drums. All right. Yeah. So. So I've recorded those notes. We'll talk about that later, about the recording engine.
I see them there. That's fun.
So then now by changing the acceleration,
Let's add a fourth note. And so if the acceleration time is longer than the actual gate, it will get stuck before it reaches the actual target.
Understood.
Pitch.
Gotcha.
so then let's talk about the release stage. So you can set it up differently. So to do that, you use the same two controls and just do the to and off. So now I've got it dropping down to a -7 semitones, which is fifth, and I can say that the release stage could be an octave up. And we can adjust the speed of that breaking kind of.
I almost feel like we need to put the reverb back on for a sec. Just
Oh,
hear
yeah,
what
yeah,
that's going to
just-
sound
yeah,
like
'cause
with the reverb
movement-
tails, right?
movement
Yeah.
always
Let's hear it again if you
animates
don't mind,
the-
Ilya. A lot of possibilities there. I think that's cool.
Yeah. So that's one voice, and let's try adding a second voice and let's set it up differently. So let's do the second voice that it would move from a fourth, let's say from a fourth upwards, but at a certain speed, and then drop down to a minus major seventh and slower, right? So we should get something interesting going.
That's beautiful. It just got
Increase the
beautiful,
scale.
right? When you get that sort of being pulled in both directions.
So just
Well, that's awesome.
a lot of possibilities just there.
Yeah.
And
I see why you guys put the controls on the front for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but this kind of opens up a door to one other topic in general about the synth. Is this so? This is in this presentation. This is the first kind of moment where we're talking about individual control over voices.
Yeah.
So
Before we go on with the next topic, maybe we can answer a question from here,
Yes.
which is we already covered the sound source, the motors and the optical discs that they're driving, but there's just a question. The question is, are the sensors completely hidden under the motors, or is it possible to contaminate the sound through infrared light pointed at the synth window?
Well, that's a very interesting question.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. If you've got I don't know. So I don't know exactly how well you can see this, but maybe on this, on the main view here, where you can see all three of us. This is the window here. So if you would point some kind of powerful light emitter, if you could shine it and try to get it sandwich that ray of light in between the motors and these boards that come. There's this board that kind of like sits right underneath the. Yeah, then you can contaminate it, but I'm not sure.
Possibly a laser at a rave. And you're performing, doing your
so
live
just,
performance.
yeah, like-
just tape the back. Maybe gaffer tape over the back.
I mean, like glow sticks ain't gonna cut it.
Glow sticks aren't going to do it. All right,
No,
good.
No.
Okay.
But yeah, you could probably potentially contaminate the sound, but it's probably not gonna be a very exciting.
Right. Yeah, I
but
wonder if the person asking the
Okay,
question is
could it be-
wondering
that's
about.
like good.
That's a good question. So far, that's actually, I think, the lead question,
good
right?
contender for
I think
t-shirt.
so.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's good.
Could it be a problem on the stage with the stage lighting?
No.
Okay.
Just short answer. No.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
You have other problems. like why? Like,
Do we have any more? Yeah, more questions?
Can you accelerate it and just let it spin free until it stops?
so maximum acceleration.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Can you show the maximum acceleration speed? I think that's what.
But would the maximum
Sebastian
speed
is
be sort of
asking.
like an imperceivable jump because it would be such a fast attack, or would it?
Well, not the maximum speed, but the longest.
Longest speed.
Yeah, the
Oh.
longest attack time. Yeah.
Now we're in the spaceship taking off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
So you see, like I actually wanted to talk about this. Like this is an important thing about this synthesizer. It's got like this. See, like I'm losing a lot of. There's lots of variables, and I'm losing a lot of time by adjusting the two voices separately. Obviously, that's good for dialing in something very specific, but you know, just to quickly arrive at the sound, we have completely independent controls here for, okay, well, this, don't mind this volume, wave shape, and scale, that's obvious, but the pitch envelope, which is a complicated kind of two knob situation also with the alt key. And the same goes for the amp envelope. We have one amp envelope kind of adjustment for voice 1 and a separate one for voice 2. So the cool thing about, like the exciting thing that we have introduced into the interface for Mark II is this: we have this link button.
Is that for a global control of all voices with one?
Yeah, so for example,
controls?
right now, we also have the third voice, which is the digital oscillator, which
Cool.
we've kept kind of silent for now.
That
But
seems
yes, when
exciting.
you do link, this screen here offers you a choice of. So this is the so-called link screen. Here you can select the master, the set of controls that will now take over as the master set of controls for all three voices.
Gotcha.
So for example, we've done this super crazy pitch envelope here, which is the coming down from an octave below and then the release going an octave upwards. We can change that to the envelope that we drew for voice number 2. For example, if I press link, now it's confirmed. So you can see that voice 2 acceleration curve, this one here that starts off high, high up. Now it's the master one for both voices. So even if I open up the voice 1 acceleration screen and start changing things, you can see that that doesn't affect the sound. And we can see that those things are represented in like a dotted line, which means that...
Inactive,
So
right?
essentially you can take the controls of one of the voices, aka layers, and apply it to all to the two other layers, aka voices. And there are a lot of settings that you can change for how it links and unlinks. So for example, you might want to unlink the voices and restore the previous settings that you had before you make them all the same.
Okay.
Or you can unlink them and have all the layers have the same settings, but now you have individual control again over all of them.
Right, right.
So you can incorporate that and set it up the way you need it for your
It's not just fully
performance.
independent or joined. There's some
Yeah.
adjustment in there.
Yeah, you can adjust how you want the linking to work for you.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So for a good example would be here. So now let's try to show this with the amp envelope.
Okay.
So now let's listen to voice number 1 on its own, and it's going to be higher voice with the sawtooth, increased like higher tone, more brightness. So that's our voice 1, short envelope. And then for voice 2, we can do
Right, more of a
Sorry?
plucky, long release kind of a sound.
you can do like make it less plucky, I suppose. But it's got to have a tail on it. And then voice 1.
Let's make this one plucky.
Okay,
Oh, yeah,
let's
that'd be
make
cool,
let's
yeah.
make the number 1 plucky. Okay, cool. So sustain down, super short tail. Okay, let's do an arc. So now we have 2 amp envelopes for both voices, which is kind of cool on its own.
Very cool, yeah.
But if I want to, if I'm playing live or something, I don't want to be messing around with 2 envelopes.
Okay.
So let's do, if you press link now, we can say, okay, the master one is going to be the voice 1, the plucky one. We press link to confirm. So now we can just adjust everything from one spot. but then it's like, okay, I want to come back. Actually, no, I want to try to link to voice 2.
Okay.
So you press link again, select voice 2 as the master.
So you can jump back to previous setting
Exactly,
of voice
yeah.
2.
So
Is what you're
it's
saying
almost
before,
like
Tom, right?
you can have a pre-prepared envelope shape.
Right. That'd be great in a set too to be able to jump between.
Yeah, you can just
two
jump
different
between
things.
them.
So
As you
what
feel-
was happening? You first had like separate envelopes for each of the voices, and then he made one of them the master, and then he flipped that.
Right,
So
right.
the second one became the master.
Right. So,
So
even
yeah,
though we made
yeah.
used the first one as the master and that affected the second
Yeah.
voice, the second
Yeah.
voice's original setting is still held there.
It's held there
Yeah.
in
You
the
can see-
memory, and
you
we can
can see-
recall it and even make it the master. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see that, for example,
I
here.
see it in dotted line again.
Yeah, we've got
Right.
linked. We've got the voices linked to the voice 2 as the master for envelope, amp envelope, and we can still edit this envelope, but we're not hearing it because it's not the master voice.
Got you. You can
So
still
we can-
prepare it.
We can prepare
You
something.
can prepare it and then jump to it.
Exactly. 1,
That's
2,
cool.
3, 4. And
then
then
switch
now
back.
you can go and change the voice 1 and prepare that.
Jump between those.
I've introduced an attack phase. So that is the idea,
That's awesome.
and that's pretty nice. And
I'm probably saying that a lot during this live stream here. Is just that's awesome.
that's awesome.
There's a lot of awesome stuff.
I mean,
We need some confirmation from external sources, right?
Just have Eli here. That's awesome.
do you guys agree? Do you
How's
also,
everybody doing
do you,
at home?
do you,
Let's
do you
just-
also think that that's awesome?
Yeah. Let's do a couple of questions now. Okay?
Yeah, I like the questions.
But after the questions,
Yeah.
I would like to talk a little bit more about.
You would like to talk a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
about the envelope.
We'll see about that. Okay, we have a couple of questions about Mark 1 and Mark 2, and I don't want to, make people wait even longer because the first questions came in like 40 minutes ago. Can you just briefly explain what's going on with the Mark 1? What can Mark 1 owners expect? And my favorite question until now is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much grief should we Mark 1 owners feel?
Can I jump in here real quick?
Okay.
Let's use cars as an example.
Okay.
You go out and you buy whatever your favorite car is. I don't know, a Lexus or something. And you buy it in 2015, and you drive the car. Do you think Lexus has said, that's it, we're never making another model of this car? No, they're still developing, and here's a new idea, there's new technology available, we've discovered it, and then they sell another one. The first owners are hopefully still enjoying their nice Lexus from 5 years earlier, Or maybe,
I'm still
or maybe
enjoying
they're
my
able to
phone.
go in to get a firmware update or something that maybe gives them, I don't know,
Speaking of firmware update, there was a viewer asking about is the Mark 1 getting a firmware update? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Yeah, but it was
We're a
important.
little bit slow with it, but
We're slow.
it's coming.
So quick. So just to, I know that there's definitely people watching who are the owners for Mark 1. So we introduced the idea as a concept in 2019. I think a year and a half later, we were shipping the Mark 1s. The shipping period was something 6 to 9 months. In that time, we shipped all of the people who made the pre-orders and supported that idea, and we did promise them a firmware update, and we still have not been able to put that out, and that's why this question is totally valid. And although cars is a different thing, but so the motor synth, the motor synth Mark II is the evolution of this idea, and we received a lot of feedback from the Mark 1 supporters, and we've understood some problem. We've made some mechanical changes to the instrument because we learned a lot from the manufacturing, and we learned a lot from the feedback from the MK1 owners. We've done changes to the analog circuitry by increasing headroom and adding a second filter for second motor voice.
Got you.
We've added a digital voice. We've changed the modulation section, and to be completely honest with you, when we were shipping out the Mark 1, we were pretty raw with all the sequencing and motion record and arpeggiation engines. It was quite basic. So we understood that, okay, we're going to need to rework this and change it up and like improve, like make improvements to the thing. But it was very important for us to finish all these processes with the Mark II, so that when we proceed forward, we can make updates and provide certain functions, and like that would be that would essentially compatible for both Mark I instrument and the Mark II instrument.
Because it seems like from what you're showing me, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes in this machine that maybe some of that is able to be a couple
Not
features.
everything,
Not
but
everything,
a lot
of course,
of features.
but some features may be able to
So
be
instead of
added.
writing a new firmware for Mark I, we decided we'll write we'll write the Mark II firmware and then reduce it slightly so that it will be able to fit the hardware of all the Mark I owners. In terms of that price performance question, how bummed should Mark I owners be? Well, first of all, you should not be bummed at all, because first of all, it was thanks to you that we were able to lift this project off the ground in the first place, and it would simply not be possible any of this without the Mark I customers. Secondly, you got yourself a unique synthesizer for a quite reasonable price. As you probably have noticed, the Mark II is going to be over $3,000. So
it's a significant jump in price.
It's a significant jump in price.
Right.
And so yeah, I think for the price that all the Mark I owners paid for this, you got yourself a cool, slightly a little bit more stripped down instrument, but the
I'd love to
sound
have a Mark
engine
I. I
is
think it seems
exactly,
really cool.
the sound engine is quite the same,
Right.
and it's in some aspects it's a little bit more straightforward punk rock instrument anyway.
Well, I have a comment about this exact thing. Is that I played a show a couple of months ago with my colleague Matis, and even though I had the MK2 available to me for the show, I still choose to play the show with the Mark I because I just, all the knobs were in my muscle memory,
Sure.
And I was dependent on that. I couldn't play a show, And also, there's a slight difference between Mark I and Mark II in that I think the Mark II is a little bit more of programmer's synthesizer. I mean, to extract the best sounds out of it, you really had to, there's a lot of things that you can do in these menus and changing the settings and
there's
very small
time to learn. You need to take
things.
time to review them.
Whereas Mark I is more hands-on.
It's more hands-on because it has less functionality. Good example of that is, for example, one big. So just I'm gonna get this out of the way first of all. So Mark I, we had some issues and complaints about how noisy the synth is. Because what we did, we made, we put some motors, we mounted them, we made motor drivers, and like that's it. And we got used to that noise, and it's like, well, what do you want? It's a motor synth.
Yes, I would be expecting to hear motors personally if I bought a motor synth.
But it was too much for some people, so
we put a muffler on it.
First thing we did, we accepted a lot of, we offered to mod or some synths to anyone who wanted that.
It sounds like you guys are really flexible and nice to your clientele. It sounds like you treat your clients well.
We make them wait for the firmware. We made them wait for the firmware a little bit.
Things take time, good things take time.
So yeah, first we did the so-called silent mod for the motor synth. Sorry.
Oh, by the way, these stands for the motor synth are 3D printed, and we are going to post the files for 3D printers somewhere online so that people can, do it yourself kind of style, make them for yourself. 3D printers should be available
That's
all
cool.
over the place. Yeah,
that's good.
So yeah, the first thing is that these synths are quieter. So if you think this is, I don't know how well this translates via live stream, but this is basically the
as
maximum.
loud as it gets.
This is as loud as it gets.
On the first Mark I, it was a bit more.
Yeah, we've achieved.
Yeah,
it was.
crazy.
We've achieved at least, I think, 6 to 10 decibel quieter acoustic sound.
And we're hearing them here at quite high pitches, right? So they're playing higher notes.
The lower pitches are way more silent.
So the first changes that we, like now the Mark II synthesizers are running custom-made, custom-designed electro motors that we ordered specifically for our synths. So that does not mean that like the motor synth, like the Mark I motors were bad or something. They are durable. They will last you for a very, very long time. And
They were something that was available to you guys in the development process, right? Something that
no,
existed.
well, like these are better because they're quieter. So basically, there's less slack, less movement. But these motors, yeah, these are quieter, and that's why we. Also, there's some other reasons why we chose to make our own model. But yeah, so quieter motors in general, different mounting systems. So it's the so-called soft mount. If you're into flying drones, then you probably understand what's a soft mount. But in so many words, it's just you sandwich the mounting like board to the chassis, and there's some shock absorbing materials involved. And then there's another thing we did is like literally we're using acoustic treatment materials internally.
Okay.
So the panels and everything like behind the curtains here, we're using the same kind of. We got this idea from cars, honestly, like what they do with the door panels.
Because
and
if it was just
everything.
if the space not used by the electronics were just open space, it would have some space to reverberate internally.
Exactly, yeah.
So you have some dampening material.
We got some dampening,
Right.
like acoustic treatment materials mounted onto the inner surface. Don't take the synth apart. Just imagine it.
I wouldn't take. We take every synth apart here. I would not take this one apart. I would call you guys. I will say that I'm sort of hypnotized looking at the discs. Do you guys ever notice you've just been staring at them for some period of time? It's very beautiful.
Yes.
It's like some sort of art installation.
That happens
You
from
know?
time to time.
It's like
yeah,
it's
that
just
happens,
looking at
that
them.
happens, yeah.
Very nice to look at.
Yeah.
So this is the mechanical changes. Mechanically, it's slightly different because of that. Also, little bit different note, like knob layout, but it's actually quite close. Then also less fan noise in the Mark II.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we addressed. Noise. Okay. So and then there are added features on the Mark II, and then you can decide whether it's worth the extra money. So first of all, it is this many different so many different changes in the interface connected to the fact that Mark II also features a digital voice. So now I'm gonna.
This is the digital
This is
voice
the
on
digital
its own.
voice. This is the digital voice on its own. We can talk. Well, we should talk about it later on. But it's a flexible, like shapeable digital engine. That it's a proprietary engine that we wrote for the motor synth. It has its own amp envelope control, pitch envelope control, its own digital filter with full control. It can be adjusted from the screen. It can serve different functions. You know, it's also got a built-in noise engine with all kinds of adjustments. We'll go through them later on.
Well, the digital voice of the synthesizer, I mean, the interface still puts the focus on the motor.
Sure.
Voices. The same as in Mark I. And the digital voice is really the synth programmer's kind of thing, where you go into the menu and shape it as you want. It's very flexible, and actually, in terms of signal pattern, how it can be performed, it is as flexible, and maybe even more flexible than the motor voices. But it's like you have to program it.
I was going to ask.
It's harder to perform,
Right.
like instantly when you just get an idea on stage. Maybe the digital voice is not the best thing to improvise.
So am I right, Tom, to say that when you guys were developing the digital voice, I'm imagining this was very key on it, how it interacted with the motor voices, right? I mean, obviously,
It was always
you're
considered as
developing it in a vacuum, and then suddenly you put it with the motor voices, maybe it wouldn't, but it seems to gel. Obviously, I'm sure it gels very well with the
Actually,
motor voices, right?
one of the initial ideas for the digital voice was to implement only as an enhancement voice, so that it would follow one of the motor voices, so you wouldn't be able to
Tweak it too much.
tweak
Right.
it.
Okay.
That all went out the window.
Yeah, because just
Like we can
because
make
of
it do
all
a
the
lot of
sound
different things,
scoping
right?
benefits. Yeah,
I mean,
that you
from
get
just sweeping through it, you've got noise,
yeah,
you've got
yeah.
different waveforms.
Yeah, but it's important, like, it's important to
Excuse me as I
have
take a sip of water.
Sure.
it's important to have a noise engine, at hand. So there's you know, from the very beginning, the idea was like that this digital engine should complement the motor voices and just fill in those things, those gaps that the motor voices cannot do. The motor oscillators cannot be a noise source. They don't offer wave shaping, or you can't modulate the pulse width of something.
It's reminding me of earlier when you were talking about the waveforms on the motor synth oscillators, that they are specific, right?
Yeah,
so I imagine the digital voice, you've got pulse modulation and wave adjustments of the waveform shapes.
Yeah, you can do that, and you can modulate those things as well. So you get a little, you know, there's just some standard things that have to be done. You know, there's
like pulse width modulation.
Yeah,
I really just wanted to have pulse width
modulation. Yeah, you're like, we need pulse width
synthesizer.
modulation.
And we need a noise source.
And noise source seems useful as well.
And then, you know, then at that point it's like, okay, well, it's a...
And then it just became a long list of what we want to implement.
Yeah. So, but you can be sure that I mean, we could have done more. We could have put in like wavetables and shit.
In my mind, I was like,
no.
this is probably
we
enough.
wanted to keep it still like relatively pure. It's a proprietary like analog digital engine.
Sure.
How do you call it?
Can we hear it start just with the motor synths and then blend in something with the digital voice to hear how they kind of stack?
So now we have two voices going on, and then just a triangle wave with a little bit of folding.
It blends really nicely with it.
Yeah, it offers just a little bit more contour, something. I don't know how else to say.
Useful.
So, and then all of these, all of the sounds that come from digital voice, they also, like, we've also made sure that you can edit the amp envelope, the pitch envelope, and the filter.
So it's got its own controls. The digital voice has its own controls.
So for example,
it has like a button to access its own controls. Yeah.
So for example, here we've got this is the area on the synth's interface where you access the voice one amp envelopes. So turn everything else down. Turn the ARP down.
I love that sound. I know I keep jumping in, but that's a really cool sound.
Okay, and then if we add the digital oscillator, I'm gonna press this just button here, DCO envelope.
Okay.
And we can do and now we can use the same kind of like encoder.
That sounds awesome too.
Cool.
Okay, there I go again. That's awesome.
Maybe you can actually now go over the envelopes and how they differ from Mark I, because actually this is one of the things that will be available also on the Mark I. The hardware allows it. So on the Mark I, we had just a simple ADSR envelope that you could just click through the stages and change them.
Okay.
And that was pretty much the only thing that you could do. And it was the same for amp envelopes, filter envelopes, and modulation envelopes.
Okay.
So all of these envelopes are now improved with a lot of different features. Well, first you can switch between different envelope modes. So for example, if you hook up a MIDI keyboard to the synthesizer, which you can actually do, you might need an ADSR envelope because you have the gate length is defined by your performance, right? But if you're more playing with let's say an arpeggiator or the sequencer, either external or the internal ones, you don't really need the sustain phase because the gate is already you know how long it's going to be because it's dependent on the tempo. So it might be more useful to use, like, for example, an AD envelope, so that you only have two parameters to jump through.
Right.
Yeah.
So here, what we
that's actually the case on vintage synths too. 2600s have two envelopes, a 4-stage and a 2-stage. So useful to have that here as well.
Currently we've got, so the first one is ADSR,
I see.
and we've got AD.
Okay, nice.
Really AR, which is also useful in certain. So then we have ADSR with a delay stage.
Yeah.
So now this is kind of cool because this system of just one encoder,
I like that a lot.
it's really easy and it allows us to give, like, we're not restricted to having like 4 parameters or 2 parameters. We can have 5 parameters. We can, you know. So this is the delay thing that we just heard, and for example,
Mix in the other voice maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. So let's do voice 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And we can adjust this quite precisely.
Anything that brings in rhythmic possibilities, I think, is always very well.
And you set up the envelope, including the envelope type for each voice. So if you want to play with ADSR for one voice and then just AD or delay ADSR or whatever for the other voice, you're free to do that. So
that's great to have the flexibility.
And then there's also
So that's
resetting functions.
That's another thing that's really useful. Like we were talking about those, like using the link as a kind of preset, little like prepared sound.
Right, right.
For example, you can prepare, like you can be.
And we were talking
exactly,
about
yeah, you
switching
can switching between
right.
types of envelopes. You can prepare a really short, blocky AD envelope, and then have, you know, use the voice 2 slot to set up something really crazy and complex with like a hold stage or a delay stage, and then just instantly switch all 3 voices between the simple one and the complex one.
I love that.
Yeah.
So much movement.
So here we've got the ADSHR.
Okay.
Also just using one voice now. Now the whole stage is
The hold stage, of course.
Yeah. So
then,
these values are displayed in seconds.
Sure.
So now it's going to be half second.
Can you show the curve control?
Yeah, I will. I just wanted to show this final one. This is the AD looping envelope.
Ah, I love looping envelopes.
Really cool. So I'm just going to latch the notes.
Okay.
And I'll just show you how quick and cool they are.
So you could have this going on one voice and have more of a drone sound on another voice, correct?
Yep, exactly. So now I'll show you the fastest.
Almost audio right there, yeah.
This is the fastest one.
Emotional sounding, man.
Yeah, I like it. It's
I love
really
it.
cool. And you can screw around with the curve as well. So by holding Alt, you access the curve parameter for each. And I will get to that later, but you can just record. I just want to record that. So I just wanted to record that kind of movement on the curve.
So we're jumping into a motion record lanes.
You know, there's people.
You guys, this thing has motion record?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got. You can motion record everything.
Now I need lunch.
So I mean, you know, there's people who, you know, were thinking like, oh shit, okay, enough of this. I'm gonna switch off or something and watch something else. But no, there's motion record coming.
Plus, they're gonna miss our dance performance as well.
Yeah, yeah. So now I've recorded just like the random hand movement that's controlling the curve on the.
I'm watching it. It's very
now
nice.
Now let's record the length of the so
okay.
Just do this. And you can have a ball falling down the stairs, kind of thing.
This makes me think of Aphex Twin.
So that's voice 1. Now let's add voice 2. Now let's say we want to try this for all voices. We'll make that as a blink.
Do the link. And then like we did before, you could prepare maybe a more standard envelope and then jump back to that. Or,
so now again, and then let's select something else as a master. You know, for example, we don't want to link to anything else now. What we want to do, we just want to unlink them. So they're linked now. Let's just go back to the way it was. So this is the other thing that I wanted to mention. Like the link function offers also in the same menu. There's a unlink function. So there's two ways to unlink. One is unlink to set values, which means to return
To where it was
to
previously?
where it was
Okay.
previously. So which means I did it now. So hopefully you can hear that only voice 1 is doing the crazy jumping. So yeah, and let's do link again. We'll link to voice 1. Now all voices will be doing that. Now let's say I want to unlink, but I don't want to have experience a change in sound. So I'm going to do unlink, no change. That means that the setting of voice 1 will be pasted over voice 2 and the digital voice. So now we're unlinked, but it's all copied over. And you can see that here. So yeah, that's the unlink thing.
I have to jump in with something because I totally ADD and that's what I do. But I love the sound of the synth. There's right now, at least how it's set, you get this really nice saturation. There's kind of a little bit of a drive saturation, and it could just be the wave shapes, or it could be something about the filter, which we haven't gotten to. But
We're an hour 20 into a live stream and we haven't touched
Got
the
the
cutoff
filter.
knob.
That's kind of amazing. I feel like we've accomplished something here. But I love the way that this thing kind of has that sort of saturated sound, if you want. And it's a very pleasing kind of a saturation. Makes your ears kind of perk up. And I don't know if that's this drive here or what. I know we're not talking about that right now, but I'm just saying, I'm noticing it, guys. It sounds awesome.
Well, let's go talk about the filter then.
Let's do it.
So the filter. So
So
right
hour
now,
20, we're getting to the
well,
filter.
Finally.
we fucked up the first 10 minutes, I think.
Okay, we're
It was
an
a bit of
hour
a
into
ride.
live
It was a
stream
bit-
and we haven't
This has
touched
been a
the
bit of an
filter.
adventure here.
Let's screw around with filter. Maybe Tom, you want to play around with filter?
Do the filter.
Down a little bit.
I'll stick to monitoring the questions.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to maybe sum up, so all of these envelope types and other envelope settings that we didn't even touch will come to the Mark 1.
Exactly.
And they're going to be the same as on Mark
So
2.
yeah,
and
Mark
that's
1
a
owners will have looping
yeah.
envelopes, more
Yeah.
complicated.
And I think
complex
like
envelope
looping
shapes.
envelopes is a big improvement.
Yeah.
That's yet another rhythmical thing that can happen in the synthesizer on top of just your performance
So Mark 1
sequencing,
users will get that,
arpeggiator,
those
yeah.
features as well.
It's a really, really cool thing. And
Yeah.
that is the same for filter envelopes and for the modulator envelope. So it's not only for the amp envelopes.
The hardware allows it
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
MK1 version.
Okay, filter. Let's
Filter.
All right, filter. Voice 1 and voice 2, the motor voices, each have a separate analog multi-mode filter that's been tweaked and improved. So it's the same. It's
the same
almost
chip?
it's the same chip.
Yeah.
No. Is it the same? So, but different periphery. Okay.
Different mixing configuration. You're saying it has more headroom.
Yes. So the synth in general has more headroom because in the Mark 1, and this is something that cannot be updated. Unfortunately, this is like another one of those things. Like, how should Mark 1 owners feel? Well, yeah.
Well, I would say the synth sounds like they just have a bit different character. Then.
Yeah, they have a little bit less headroom. So here we've got same. We've got a separate analog multimode filter for each voice, although the controls are shared. So the way we're solving this, we've got the link functionality going as well for the filter. So now all three filters are being, sorry, there's 1, 2, and the digital voice has a digital emulated filter, which was tweaked to make sound as close as possible to the analog ones. But you can also route the digital voice into the analog filter as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, so you can.
So it can go through its own filter and then be mixed together with, let's say, voice 1, and then go into the voice 1 filter.
Double filter?
Yeah, double filter.
So and also there's some changes to these modes. So it's 24 dB low pass, 12 dB band pass, high pass, and the fourth mode now is 24 dB all pass. That is something that's a little bit new. So now we're still hearing that looping envelope. One thing I can do here is click, and just clear it to the init preset.
Got you.
without loading the init preset. So
Yeah,
you're
just
just
doing
reloading
that
that
for the screen.
parameter from the
So
preset.
just for the envelopes.
Yeah.
Adjusted before. Okay.
So which one is doing it?
And of course,
Okay,
you can
voice one.
define your init preset.
Say, oh, cool.
So now we're using a very basic like ADSR envelope
Sure.
as the init preset. So let's start screwing out with these filters. So fully closed and the low pass, I'm gonna latch it.
So now what is happening, all three filters are controlled at the same time. So you have one set of controls for three filters, and there are different ways how you can set it up. You can either choose one of the filters or link them together similar to the envelopes and acceleration. And now we have that node where they're linked together, and we control all of them with one same set of nodes on one panel.
But again, it has the flexibility of being able to be all independent or
yeah. So that is a big thing of this synthesizer. So you have these four musical pitches that each of those have these three different layers called voices, and you can use all of them to build one giant voice, like say a lead sound or a bass sound, or you can separate them and actually make them perform in different ways. So one of them can be an arpeggiator and the other one can be a keyboard note. So you can start building these like multi-part pieces, or just make one great lead sound.
I mean, right now with the sound,
and anywhere in between, yeah.
with the sound Ilya's doing now, it makes me think about the synth has such a kind of a cinematic quality to the sound. I mean, right now you're hearing this. Can you imagine, you know, a scene, you know, in some film or something? It has an emotional sound to it. It's not a sterile sound at all. You know?
Well, yeah, sterile is something that really hasn't been said about the synthesizer.
No, it's the opposite of sterile. It has an emotional sound. It's evocative. It's cinematic.
But that is
Or I understand it has the flexibility, of course, to just be like do a bass line or you know, something. But this is like
that is
great saturated
That is
sound.
actually the point of using the monitors in the first place, because it's not perfect.
That's which is so refreshing in our time, in our day and age.
It's not perfect, and that's good.
Yeah.
That's good,
Yeah.
because just
There's nothing fun
imperfections
about
are
perfect.
what define things, right? So,
So for example, now we've got the synth, like the cutoff kind of closed down a little bit. But so as we keep turning everything up, it's one of those.
Because we want to, right? We could turn the master up there actually. If we want.
So now we've got everything kind of closed down. So what we can do in the linked mode, works kind of the same as with the amp envelope. So now we've got one set of controls applied to all three filters, and which is nice for just playing. But what we can do is we can unlink. First of all, let's show that unlink without unlink to no change. That means when you press unlink, you get individual control over voices, but without changing anything in the sound. So unlink. Now we can use these buttons here, voice 1, voice 2, DCO, to map these controls to that filter only. So let's set up an ARP. Let's do it slower. So let's go to digital voice, and let's give it an envelope. So that's only affecting 1, and let's go to voice number 1. Let's close it down and give it a different envelope. Or maybe let's open it up and let's give it like a reverse.
give it some movement, maybe.
Yeah.
Like a reverse
maybe
envelope.
a D envelope.
Yeah, let's bring up the digital voice back.
Again, it allows you to get all this wonderful interaction.
And then let's leave the second voice just kind of static as it was.
Maybe with some
It follows on.
or the second voice.
Too loud? Turn it down a little. Why don't we turn the master up
Yeah,
here
let's-
just a little
let's-
bit?
let's-
Yeah, because that's just for the room. There we go. How's that?
So yeah, for example. example, so it has key follow, and so I got an amount setting here. So if you're doing voice 2, I'm going to isolate voice 2. Right. Is this too loud?
No, this is good.
Okay. So we got the, first of all, so this knob here toggles whether a key track is on or off. So now it's on, but it's set up to minus 100, and it ranges from plus 100. So that make sure that the filter of cue point moves along with the sequence. So obviously,
Love that.
And then you can.
So, and since the filter is a resonant filter, it will self-oscillate, and since it tracks pitch, so yet another sound source that you can utilize.
It's wild.
That's the max resonance.
I think this is an example of something that could sound really bad on another synth, but it still sounds good.
So now we're just playing the filter, I suppose, but we have still the voice bleeding in. Drive is here. So that's one voice playing now. Now digital voice. And we can do whatever we want with it on its own separately. And now let's do voice number 1.
This thing is alive, guys.
So now one thing we can do, so there's one extra additional linking mode that is supported, offered by the filter. So this is called link to offset. So if we just want to link all the controls, but we want to keep the individual relationships between the 3 voices,
I understand.
and we can link to offset, and now we get to play around with the cutoff knob or something, you know. And we can keep the
That's fantastic. Everything kind of keeps its quality and settings, but you're sort of adjusting all of them wherever they are. Right, offsetting them.
Yeah,
okay.
offsetting all of them.
So that's nice. That's a cool patch.
Yeah,
So this is just
one
a
of the
filter.
goblin patches or what?
Yeah,
It's awesome.
So, but this is just the filter on its own. Like everything else is doing kind of nothing. It's like basic, basic amp. Basic amp.
Arpeggio.
So now when we're linked, another thing we can do is when we're linked, for example, okay, let's unlink. Yeah. So now let's link to voice number 1. So I just have this. Okay. So now we can adjust the filter envelope to something like this, AD. So what we can do is we can temporarily enter, like, so let's say I want to change something for the digital voice. I don't want to exit the link mode. I can just double tap that. So we're temporarily in offset mode. You can just open up the digital voice a little bit and then press it again, and that's it. We still move them together now.
Gotcha.
So stuff like that. So detailed control is there.
And this can be motion recorded.
Yeah.
And then you can motion record the offset and then still tweak the filters, and then you get into the zone where really your imagination is the more limiting factor.
I feel like you could just have this in some sort of a drum synth or drum machine and like make an unbelievable track. You know?
Okay, we have another huge section.
Yeah.
I mean,
let's jump into
we can everyone who is into synthesizers can talk about
So we got
filters
more
all day
people.
long.
We got more people watching than in the beginning, so that's a good sign, right?
But,
But we are slow.
But we are past the peak. So
Yeah. So, okay, modulation.
modulation.
Okay.
If we will be showing musical examples, we're gonna end together with the sunset. So maybe just quick overview of how the modulation section is
So
set up.
In Mark 1, the mod is 3 modulators, but the destinations are fixed to filter, cutoff, and amplitude.
Yep.
Right. Here we realized that like it's so flexible over here now with with the 3 voices, separate envelope, separate pitch envelope, separate filter controls, different. You can set up different envelope types for everything.
All the digital voice parameters that you
which
can
we
change.
should also cover.
We already
later
did
on.
that. Yeah.
But so the modulators now we've made sure that they can be assigned. So all it says is slot A or slot B. For this example, let's set everything to slot A, and let's give ourselves a droning note. And a note.
Okay.
So now, when I press this button here, it says mod assign and mod setup. So you can see that this is a modulate. So this is the system here, right? We can see that there's 3 modulators, and this menu displays the basic waveforms, the clock source, which is now the same for all 3 modulators, which is the BPM of the project.
Got you.
And the subdivision of that, right? So we can change the subdivisions of the clock source for each one of the
Guys,
3
I'm
modulators.
getting the feeling that this is going to be another source of rhythmic activity and very cool
yeah.
possibilities.
And
Okay,
the clock
so-
source can be BPM, it can be its own modulator clock, it can be the last note played, the frequency of it, which you then divide, and stuff like
So,
that.
Incredible.
Yeah.
We currently like 5 choices in internal frequency, which is just arbitrary frequency, not related to the master tempo, and you can use mod 2 as the clock source, or mod 3 as the clock source
Very
for mod
flexible.
1,
It's like a
or
modulator.
the BPM, or the last played note.
Yeah, you're actually right. This thing comes directly from inspiration with playing modular synthesizers.
Yeah, it seems like a modular. You could really
Yeah.
just
So-
connect it wherever you want internally.
Yeah.
So now, for example, okay, what we have going is this droning note.
Mhm.
All right, we press assign,
Mhm.
mod 1 unassigned. Cool. If we wanted to do something with mod 2, then
What about a sample and hold on a filter or something?
okay, perfect. Okay, let's do mod 1. We select this one. Now confirm the selection. Now we can do anything we want. So the obvious choice is the filter cutoff.
Yes.
So all we need to do is like while this light is blinking, we touch the filter cutoff
I
and
see.
confirm. That's it, we're done. So now, if we want to edit this shape, we enter shape control.
Okay.
This is
Stepped shape.
this is the step shape, which is where the sample and hold lives in,
Yep.
and you need to change the type to
Random or
random. And now you can set up to 8 steps per one subdivision for the sample and hold.
So
a
you
lot
have
of
a
control over the
subdivision of a
speed.
subdivision, yeah.
So the range of these modulator knobs is also bipolar.
Plus minus one,
Have,
yeah.
You go all the way down. So which is important like for the cutoff frequency. Now, or you can go up. Now you can't hear much because it's all
Right.
it's already like.
And you have to think about it, because if the modulation will go beyond the filter, you know, how the filter, if the modulation makes the filter jump out of its scope,
Right,
you won't
right.
hear any difference. So it's similar to modular world, where you know you can break things, or you know.
Sure. Or things may not have as much of an effect, depending on how you have it set.
So now I've set it up to have
Now we're in squiggle land.
squiggle, squiggle, yeah. Squiggle. So that's like 1/32.
Yes,
into
that's
like
quite quick,
subdivision.
yeah.
So 16-note subdivision, and each subdivision tries to give you like 8 sample and hold steps. So, but it doesn't have to be so crazy. We can just,
Standard sort of wave shapes. And,
for example, this is going to be our triangle, but we can adjust the curve.
That's cool.
We can adjust the axis
Phase,
offset.
yeah.
Now we can adjust the y-axis so it jumps kind of, it goes up and down, it dances around the
So
cutoff
it's
point.
yeah. So it's not. What is the word in English? Yeah, so it's
Not unipolar, is
Yeah,
it?
yeah. It's not unipolar anymore.
Square, pulse width.
So and if you increase the duty cycle until the point where it becomes a DC offset, you can now use a modulator as a control for a parameter that you don't have a direct access to.
Right, I see.
Because there are a lot of parameters that are not assigned to a knob. So, and if you really want change one of those as part of performance,
Right.
you can do that with the modulation.
And you've got three.
We have three, yeah. And each modulator
Yeah.
can be routed to two different destinations, each with its own.
Is that the A and B?
Yeah, that's the A and B.
Okay.
And each A and B can receive its own amount of modulation and polarity. So it's a limitation and an opportunity at the same time.
Yeah,
There are
totally.
three modulators, and you cannot change
two.
the shape for A and B, but you can change the amount and
It sounds like
polarity.
you could do very complex,
Yeah.
interesting things.
So let's say you're using the modulator to create a kick drum with a resonant filter, and if you send a reversed shape to the bass line, you're getting sidechain compression pretty much together with a kick. So one modulator to set up two different sounds at the same time, and so you can come up with these musical ideas where you can utilize this, two destinations for each modulator. Yeah.
So here I'll just show the mod envelope as well. So we've got this crazy modulation going, which is opening the filter super quickly, squiggly, like that. Okay, let's go. So now just click this mod envelope, same familiar screen, and we can use this absolutely the same system kind of to. Let's do like ADSR, standard envelope, and let's add an attack stage on that and edit the curve so it's like this. So it's kind of like, how do you say this? How do you call it?
Like a ramp?
Like a ramp, yeah.
Like an
Okay, so
exponential.
now you can also adjust so that the amp, the mod envelope resets with every gate.
Or you could have it be continuous if you wanted that too, right? Yeah.
So that's nice. You can do that for just about anything. Also, you can do the looping envelopes and all these crazy envelope shapes for this as well. And I think like Tom's example was this, if you select, we're still on the square wave here.
Yep.
Let's do the pulse width just all the way open. So now this is essentially a attenuator for that parameter, right?
Right.
Actually, in this example, there's no.
And now we can use the envelope.
Because, yeah,
So now we can use the envelope.
for the DC offsets.
Right.
So in this way, you're actually getting yet another envelope that you can assign to another parameter.
So here it's
Wild.
assigned to cutoff frequency, but we don't really need it because we have the filter envelope.
Yeah.
But
What
let's
are the
say
me- what are-
let's say we want to do this for the DCO
Save it.
for the DCO.
Imagine, what are the meetings like?
Oh.
Game-changing. These features are incredible.
They get pretty.
You guys
heated.
have
They
whiteboards
get
and everything, and you're.
They get pretty heated.
Yeah. You guys have quite the team, man.
So for example, let's kind of like tease another feature here. Let's say this is the cross mod. Yeah?
Yep.
So
I'm glad there's a dedicated knob for cross mount. That's great.
yes. So this is the cross mod, like without, with. Let's make it a little bit more.
Just explain what's happening. So there's a
I'll
cross.
explain later.
Yeah, the cross mode menu is accessible if you wanted to. Have it.
Okay.
So you can just perform the cross modulation without ever thinking about the menu, and in the
So-
menu you have more settings for
Yeah,
it.
so this is no cross mod. Yeah, there's three voices. With cross mod, I have it set up currently like this. But I don't want to just have this sound. I want it to have an envelope. And so I'm using this prepared shape you know, which is that
The DC
all the
offset,
way
yeah.
all the
Yeah.
way opened up, pulse like fully open square. Sorry. So now I'm doing mod assign. And instead of it's currently assigned here. I'm just going to touch this knob. Boom, confirmed. So now. So now I can give it an envelope. Or go the other way. Going down. So you can pretty much assign this to any destination. So you can do, I don't know, what's interesting. Let's do pitch shifting for the whole keypad. So for example, if I do this, I can just play around with the pitches. So I'm going to do mod assign. Let's leave that, but the destination B, let's do shift all frequency.
Okay.
Confirm. And now let's go to B. So the A and B slots, they share the same shape and envelope and clock subdivision, but they can
Wow.
have a different, like positive and negative, different amounts of depth to anywhere.
Got you.
And then the final thing I should say about the modulation section is that we can modulate the modulation of the mod.
Yeah,
Whatever.
you can cross modulate
Wait,
the
now you guys are
modulators.
just trying to
Yeah.
This can't be real.
Yeah, we can
Modulate the.
we can do a lot of like stupid things, like we can modulate parameters of mod 1 with mod 2
Right,
that's being modulated by mod
Everything
3.
is fully assignable and
So
you
the
can figure it how you want.
modulation section on the synthesizer is like truly modular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems fully modular.
That's about it.
Yeah.
That's about it, yeah.
But I think we should at least do that. So it's not complicated at all. So you just
And then we also have
mod 3 is now
re-
going to be
all the rest
assigned
of the
to-
motor synth
to
features
this.
that we still need to cover.
So mod 3, this guy
When's
here.
lunch showing up, guys? Where's the lunch?
So now mod 3 is modulating the depth of this. So it's kind of that's it.
Right,
Very
right.
simple, and yeah, subdivision faster. And we can do its own envelope, so it has an attack stage and.
That's wild.
So yeah, it's very, very fun. And a lot of the patches that we're going to be offering in the MK2 are based around this exploiting the different modulations.
I was actually going to ask you guys this. So, this unit, I'm assuming, has presets.
Yeah.
So, how many presets does it have, and how does that work?
It can have a lot. There's not space
Yeah.
is not a
Manage-
limitation.
Are there limits?
Yeah, MIDI standard.
MIDI
I think
standard.
it's
Mhm.
what 8 banks of something. No, like
128 banks times 128.
yeah. Okay. Okay.
Wow.
So
The reason
128 squared.
The reason I ask
basically.
is with a synth like this that has so many interesting features, I think in the past I've always discovered possibilities with things through sometimes having a preset that's sort of out in this land, and you're like, wait, how did it do this? And you can kind of work backwards from there. You know what I mean, or tweak it. You know what I'm saying?
Actually, there's a way how to monitor the preset value on the synthesizer when you load up a preset, and then let's say you want to try to figure it out. So
Yeah.
it'll touch the filter
And it'll
cutoff,
show.
and then,
It'll
and
show
then
just
it's lost.
Yeah.
It's
There's
lost.
like little arrows.
And then it's lost, but there's a way to, Ilya was showing previously in another example that you can reset only one value to the preset value.
Right.
Without, messing with the other stuff, and there's also a way to monitor the
Yeah, for
preset value
example-
on the screen.
Yeah, for example, we've like screwed everything up with these crazy modulators.
Right.
We can go to the mod screen and just clear.
Pretty fast to clear things out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can kind of get back to where you were and sort of try something else, right? Say, okay, we tried that. Let's try something different, right?
Oh no, I didn't clear this guy. Yeah, slot A.
Yep.
Clear that. Okay.
Now kind of back where we started, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's cool.
So the modulation section is really cool, and like for example, like what I like a lot is that you can assign it to parameters that are just strange. For example, here's the ARP setup screen, and I just want to assign something. Mod 1 is going to be assigned to the time division of the ARP.
Okay.
So just confirm that. So now. Should work, I'd say. Shape control.
Shape.
The shape, the modulator is faster than the clock of the ARP, so you're not hearing it.
I hear what you're
You
saying.
need a way slower clock.
So for example, all right, this also.
Yeah, and the attack. Here you go.
Okay, right.
So it's going from 8 notes to 4th notes. Now it's going to go to 8 notes, 24 notes.
And a pattern like this could inspire you to create part of a song right away.
Oh,
You know?
maybe
now
actually.
we can change the shape, use the shape control to change the pulse width of that.
Yeah, I mean, this is things that would inspire you
Yeah,
to
yeah,
put something down, record it.
Maybe let's segue now into the arpeggiator and some of the cool features of the ARP, because the ARP in Motor Synth is actually has things that normally a sequencer would have.
Right.
So the ARP can function as, you know, plain simple arpeggiator or even go into sequencer mode. And then the sequencer section is yet another section in the Motor Synth. But yeah, let's see if we get to it.
So the ARP might be interesting. This might be interesting to MK1 owners because they can get almost all of the ARP.
Yeah, a lot of ARP parameters will
Yeah.
be in the MK1.
So now, okay, so to access the ARP, it's very simple. Alt ARP, now we're in the settings.
Okay.
So
So if you just
I'll
hit ARP,
change-
but then Alt ARP obviously gets you to the settings for the arpeggiator.
yeah.
Okay.
So now this encoder here, different styles, random mode.
So if you want down, up, down,
Up,
random,
down,
yeah, all the
So this is the
combinations.
modes.
Yeah, how many octaves?
So now I have note repeat, so I can
You
note
can probably
repeat up to 4.
randomize that, I'm assuming, too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
So, for example, yeah, well, you can
Get sort of more unpredictable patterns
Exactly,
and things.
then you can do accents, which is
That's
it's just
this
built.
is
it's-
this is what is this reminding me of? This is beautiful.
This
This
is
is
built-in velocity kind of just modulation for the.
I love
for the
this.
ARP.
I love this type of sound. This reminds me of Laurie Spiegel, who's a famous electronic composer.
So it's like repeating.
Get these
So it's
sort of-
repeating every note.
Yeah.
So it's repeating every note 4 times, accenting the first one, and now you can do octave ranges.
That's fantastic. I love the sound of that.
So now we can go to the second page by doing the ARP settings again. So now we can see the rhythmical pattern that's going on here.
Oh, okay.
So now the total length of the ARP pattern is here. Let's change it to a smaller pattern, but like that. But yeah, holding this.
Get skips and.
Now we get skips
yeah.
like if the total length of the sequence is 8 steps, we now can add a skip on the 2nd and like the 7th stage.
Just
And
bring in the kick drum
and
already.
it's-
Just
and
kidding,
it's-
just kidding.
And the thing that I wanna make is that it's only the arpeggiator pattern that's being changed. You can still have 3 or 4 or 7 or 10 notes in the ARP. Is the ARP pattern is?
I see what you're
the
saying.
only- Yeah,
I see what
yeah,
you're saying, Tom.
Yeah.
Kick drum,
Yeah.
kick drum is not included in the.
Of course not. No, obviously we're introducing your modular rig here, but I think it goes to show that there's so much inspiration. How quickly you could get just a fantastic idea and put a track down. Isn't that
this is
what's
nice.
important in the end, right?
Right.
Are you going to make some
let's
music
do,
with this,
let's
right?
Do let's do one thing. Let's jump
Yeah.
ahead a little bit and
course,
just
yeah.
also let's do the motion rec thing again, because
Again, this is my ADD. I'm like, let's make a record right now, guys. Let's start recording. This is going to be our 12-inch.
so
We're sort
what-
of offbeat
I think
there.
I messed something up.
Lost it.
Wait,
dance
it's
floor
okay,
is
it's okay,
clearing.
You
it's
Oh,
should
yeah.
have saved it as a preset.
okay. Guys, come on, come on.
We're
So
still
much-
with you, though. We're supporting you. We know that the gig will go on. closer.
Okay, let's pretend that never happened. But yeah, I wanted to just say that you can.
I love this arpeggiator. This is really.
Yeah, you can
this is
just
a great
animate it a
feature to
little
have
bit by manually by.
Would this be a good time for the clutch?
I
Yeah,
want to mess with the. What's the clutch?
So the clutch. So yeah. So here, I just wanted to just show a few more things about this rhythm editing. So very simple. Holding Alt takes you from the keyboard view. So here we can just select steps.
Okay.
We can select all steps.
And then
And we
tweak the
can
parameters
do
for those
other
steps.
parameters, such as ratcheting.
Yeah, like let's just
Yeah.
ratchet one note maybe or something.
Yeah, okay,
or one step rather.
so let's select all of them. That's take ratcheting off. Now let's do the ratcheting for the two final steps.
It's fantastic.
Let's add it to rhythm.
You guys killed it with
and
this thing.
now this guy, for example, it can have a ratchet advancing function, which means, so for example, let's do that it's ratcheting 3 times, but it's actually advancing the sequence.
Oh, interesting.
You
I
can
love.
do,
You know what? I love the visual representation that you guys have on the screen too.
You can do different probability as well for the steps.
This to me is very appealing. This functionality. This is so much more than a standard arpeggiator. This is what I always want out of a sequencer. I want ratcheting. I want to be able to skip steps. I want randomness. I mean, this is what you want out of a sequencer.
Now, again, repeated, this is not the sequencer.
This is the arpeggiator,
Yeah,
right?
the arpeggiator. So
That's why I'm so
it's
excited,
independent of the notes that you punch in. So
Amazing.
if we change the notes, still the last 2 steps will have the ratcheting.
Right.
And yeah, the sequencer is a completely different thing. There, the steps and the step parameters are fixed together with the notes.
This is fantastic. This excites me a lot.
So clutch, let's show that. Now we're doing this on one note.
This is so sick.
Change the accent just for something else.
Okay.
Now the accent's going to be in 3s. So clutch function, clutch is the key because we came up with this key because basic punnery like motors, what else? Yeah.
Clutch, yes.
Acceleration, what else we need? So when you hold down clutch, you can make any changes you want to the synth and you will not hear them. They're just kind of like loaded up and ready to go.
Of course.
So now I've changed the note sequence, filter settings, cross modulation, detune,
And then
master
when you're
volume.
ready. That's so sick. I love it.
So let's say you want to go from one filter position to the other one.
Yeah.
You usually hear the sweep.
But
While
here
you're
you can
changing.
just jump something, and you can jump something drastically different. You can
Without
go-
loading a preset.
Right.
Of course, that means that you really have to develop muscle memory for the
Sure, but-
synthesizer
but-
because
well, you guys
don't
clearly have
hear
it.
how it will sound, so
Right.
you need
Well,
to know
it's
how
kind
it
of-
will
But this
sound.
is where the visual representations help so much
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Because that's so
Yeah,
important
of
for a
course.
synth that has a screen to be able to interact with it quickly.
And that's also like important. For example, let's say your whole patch is this, like, and then you want to be in time with the rhythm. You want to be in time with the rhythm. You want to change it to a slower arpeggiator, and you want a different note as well. You know, kind of like imagine the beat behind.
Or you can, in the wildest examples, you can just keep the clutch, mess with all the controls, and just see what's going to happen.
Take a ride.
Yeah.
Now, drop it down.
And then you can jump back. Correct?
Can we jump back?
Can you jump back? Or is it just, you're just into the new
Or
zone?
can we jump back to the previous state? Or
No.
Okay, so
you
it's
have
just,
to commit to it.
you're going in. You're going in.
You're going in.
The journey goes forward.
I mean, you can always reset back to the preset values.
Right, of course,
I mean,
of course.
if your preset game is, good, then you can use that as a,
I
like
see.
as a safety net.
But this is
Yeah.
a very powerful tool for launching into a new
Yeah, yeah.
stage of a performance or a song.
So, yes, and then one other thing I wanted to show, I guess, is the detune and drift knob. This is
I
also
love a good
modulation.
detune. Yep.
How are we doing? We still have 12 people watching.
Yeah, we have to wrap it up. So the
Yeah, I'll show. We should show the detune,
Top
drift,
three,
and
Top 3 features.
top
motion record. We kind of already glossed over that.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
cool.
Okay, and then I think we should talk about the input section.
Yeah, input section.
which
I
is
was
really
actually
good.
wondering, you know,
There was also a question about the input section and the vocoder.
why don't we do
so-
a question just for
Yeah.
to switch it up for a minute?
No,
No?
I'm monitoring
Keep
the
going?
questions. Yeah.
All right,
I'm
right.
just if the topic was already covered.
Got you. That makes
So
sense.
let's say, I think we can show. We can
Tom's
do-
the
we can-
boss here. Plus, he's wearing the suit. You guys both have suits. I'm just in a t-shirt.
We'll
I'm the
sit. We'll sit
spectator.
you up. Later.
All right.
So we got some suits in the car.
I'm a medium typically, but I don't know.
Suit salesman.
We all have a lot of side hustles these days.
Right, so now we've got these notes latched,
Okay.
and that's a filter. So this is the drift, which is designed to emulate the kind of
The instability.
instability of temperature, like
Sure.
the
Of an
drift.
older analog
Yeah.
synth, possibly.
But here it's actually happening because we are listening to the motors just mess up their speed. And actually the
course.
reverb is good here because
Yeah, smooth it out.
it's gets animated
Yeah.
because of that. You can clutch, add a note, and prepare a different change. Clutch, change the note, close the filter, and reduce the drift.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's nice.
Well, what's interesting, I think, also is that on so many new synths, you know, the randomness is really just parameters behind the scenes. But here, you're actually introducing randomness into the motors as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's physical
So we can-
and actually happening right in
We
front
can
of us.
see more settings here, so you can see how it would act on all possible, on all notes.
I have to give credit to whoever, you know, your team of whoever's doing the UI for the screen. It's fantastic.
We're doing it we're kind of doing it
Collaboratively.
collaboratively,
Mhm.
but the actual layout is kind of designed by Martin, who's our main engineer.
He's back in the room
He's
here
back
with
in
us.
the room
yeah.
there, and yeah.
Well, Martin definitely did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got. Okay, let's talk about what else. So the drift is nice because it just sounds real, because it is real. And you get to edit like the depth and the specific behavior of it. You can, for example, say that.
Sorry.
Okay, let's talk also about the cross mode a little bit. So the cross mode here. So the cross mode right now I'm using the frequency. I'm using the frequency and wave shape of voice 2
Okay.
to modulate the entire output of the synth's entire output. So if I change the octave or the wave shape of voice 2,
And what about the pitch? If we adjust the pitch of voice too, how much will that change?
so we can do it here.
Right.
You can see
Gotcha.
the kilohertz change here.
I see.
But we can use it here, we can scale that. We can,
Like
I was wondering about this.
Yeah,
Getting
like
to this point,
subdivide
sort of.
the note frequency
yeah,
Yeah.
we
or
don't actually
multiply
need to
the note
change the,
frequency.
we
yeah.
don't need to actually change the note, we can just, add a multiplier on top here, like let's just, this is the real pitch, we can go up to 5 octaves.
So I think we started, you know,
multiplication.
we were at a very high frequency, and now being able to, that's where we
Yeah.
kind of were, but going down again to that real slow.
So now what else we can
Yeah.
do? We can detune it. We can detune the voice itself. And now, you know, we've got this droning thing going on.
What if we also then slow down the cross mod again?
So quickly,
Yeah, real slow.
and we can adjust the pulse width of that cross modulation shape. So now we've got this drone going. Let's show off the motion record engine quickly just by doing this. So I'm going to clear all the previous slots. So let's screw around. I'm gonna screw around. There's 8 slots of
Motion control? Okay. Motion recording.
I'm gonna screw around with the cross mod, with detune, automatic one, then with manual detuning of voice 2, then the manual detuning of the pitches of the keypad.
Okay.
And we can create a nice drone, and then we'll use that drone as a foundation to show the sidechain and the input signal.
Okay.
So it's going to be a drone now, and drone in 1, 2, 3. Alt. Now it's arm. You see this drift detune control here. Alright. Now I'm going to open the screen. Now record this parameter. Now we're going to change the note value.
So you got these
Now
different.
do detune for the
Right,
voice.
right.
So now I've got all these things kind of available here. So we have a random, amount of drift detune, amount of cross modulation, the scaling of the cross modulation signal, the tuning of key number 8, and then the detuning of voice 2. So we got 5 slots filled up, and we can change the speed, the direction of those of those lanes. So that's a drone. You can drop it down. You can try to see what happens if we switch on the arpeggiator as well. So with that.
It's fantastic.
That's cool.
It's fantastic.
So the arpeggiator is trying to do a job, but this guy, all these parameters are screwing up.
It's like an instant film score. The ears will never tire of the ever evolving patterns, you know? That's wild.
And again, if
I'm so impressed with this,
And
guys.
again, if we think about the modular world,
Yep.
the modular world really, shines at creating these, ever evolving
Sure.
kind of pieces that you're more like a composer of the rules for the system, and then it performs according to your rules. The motor synth is really good at those things as well, yeah. Because
It feels truly modular
yeah,
internally.
so in terms of like performance, you have the keyboard, you have the arpeggiator, you have the sequencer, you have the modulators, and you can use them all together or separately for
Right.
different kind of things. And maybe this is also a good time to talk about the input and how that can be
Yeah.
used.
So we've got an audio input, which basically can be used for 4 things. First
Okay.
of all, you can use the synth filters.
Sure. So run
Just
extra
route
audio.
the input audio
Which
through
will-
the
it has
Classic-
to be-
classic
has to
feature.
be mentioned.
Mhm.
Secondly, you can use the input. So the motor synth has a built-in vocoder, which uses the motor synth signal as
As
the
the carrier.
carrier, and then the input signal would be the modulator.
Mhm.
The vocoder can be accessed here. It's got maximum of 16 bands,
16
And
bands
you've
is good.
got like just a separate on-off, a blend control, input decibel attenuation, and it's called frequency Q and central frequency adjustment. So you can have, so you can kind of squeeze out a bunch of different sounds out of this. And well, I don't know if we want to show that now, but I think
we're not set up for
yeah,
it.
I
but,
think we'll be making a separate video soon
For the vocoder
that will
functionality?
be showcasing the vocoder.
Come on, Ilya, we're going to be doing a lot of separate videos for this thing.
Good point.
What were the other modes of the input? So you've got
So, but the vocoder is
yeah,
very
the
interesting.
vocoder's one.
So the one we can show now is the gate mode, right?
So the gate mode takes an incoming audio and can generate triggers to advance the sequencer or the ARP or the both.
This is where you could really incorporate it with a drum machine or a modular.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you or use an envelope follower to either gate the alt sound of the motor synth or compress it like sidechain.
Sure, if you wanted to sidechain kind of a thing.
And any combination of those. Like I played, we did a recording together with my previously mentioned colleague Matisse, where his kick drum is going to the input of the synthesizer and it's analyzing the signal and generating a trigger for the sequencer
Based on this waveform.
yeah, on the kick, and I'm applying the sequencer only to the one of the voices, which is doing like a bass guitar type of patch.
Video coming out soon.
Video is coming out soon, and so the kick is triggering the sequencer, and
Is
then
it-
I'm performing with a keyboard on top of it with the
Yeah,
rest
for example,
of the layers.
so right here, the first mode is off. Okay, second one is sidechain. So now I've got like simply a trigger from the like drum sequencer here coming in, and that's triggering an envelope, and I can set up this envelope like longer release.
Can we hear the kick drum as well, or is
Yeah.
that?
So that's a lot of use. That's very useful. Just why doesn't every synth have a inbuilt sidechain thing?
Because you can already control the amplitude of the synthesizer, right? So why not give some extra control over it?
Right, right.
It's quite useful. So then you can just tweak it as like short, long, and so secondly you can do. So this is the onset mode. That means that it just detects the first activity, and you can set the threshold for that. If it's an envelope mode, then you can send an audio copy of the kick, and then you'll have precise inverted
Gotcha.
as a
Gotcha.
starting off point. Then we can do not sidechain mode, but gate mode, which is
That's
The
great.
opposite.
Yeah, the
so
gate is
that's
great.
the opposite.
Yeah.
Basically, now the trigger here is I can have the synth do crazy, stupid things like go do ARPs and whatnot.
Plus, you
Do
can
a
send a
fast
different type of
ARP
signal. You
and
can
do-
send your hi-hat, which maybe has a more complex pattern or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now if I take, so this is what the synth is doing. Yeah,
The synth has gone full
Yeah, I'm just-
apocalypse.
I'm just doing like a stupid example of everything.
Yeah.
It's being set up at the same time, but if we do it gate mode,
Since
now the release.
So it's something that can be, in theory, easily achieved with additional gear, but here, it's just
Built in.
instantly there.
Yeah.
And maybe that's yet another source for inspiration because you don't have to spend time, hooking up another piece of gear or,
Totally.
changing the settings in the DAW. You can have it right there.
I think also a lot of people want kind of a compact setup that can do a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and so like I was saying, just with a small modular rig or a drum machine and this in a mixer,
Yeah.
you could be doing
yeah.
a lot.
Well, I like having that side chaining feature a lot because then the motor synth is really good at creating drones.
Right.
Then you can just
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it doesn't
exactly.
cut through the drones.
And it doesn't have to be the whole sound of the motor synth. Again, it can be only one of the layers.
Oh, yeah,
What if we
yeah.
just
One of
do-
the voices.
What if we just go to one of the motor oscillators?
Easy, yeah.
You
So
know,
for
just turn
example,
off the digital oscillator, turn off the other one, just get sort of a tone.
so the
drop.
gate,
Yeah.
side chain, switch them off for voice one.
So now it's only gating the
Oh.
digital voice. And the motor voices are still there, unaffected.
wild.
Yeah.
So the motor voices are doing this. They're arpeggiating. Wait, let's in.
I think the ARP needs to be removed from the DCO or something like that. Yeah.
So these are just latched. And now the input. Opens up the DCO. I can change simply the trigger pattern.
Now, Ilya, how do we do it so that now we once again make all the voices react to the side chain?
Like this.
There you go. You just got all of them right there.
That's
I
it.
see. Voice 1, voice 2, and DCO.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah. Also, you can make the trigger be the thing that advances the ARP or the sequencer.
Oh, that's very useful as well.
That's what I was previously saying when the kick was triggering the sequencer. So
Right.
I had like pre-programmed notes for the sequencer, but I wasn't touching the sequencer.
Right.
And it was the kick that was
The
driving
kick is moving it
driving the
forward,
sequencer,
advancing
so
each
yeah,
note.
so-
Right. Or step or arpeggiation step
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well,
yeah,
which
yeah.
could be a ratcheted step or a
Yep.
It just shows the
exactly.
possibilities.
So
I
now
love
I'm
seeing this motor 1. If we can just see this motor 1 really
Yeah, just because
kind of grooving
yeah.
on different tones there. I love it. This is great.
I think we need to wrap it up.
I think so too.
Oh, and maybe just before we like do a kind of last thing here, can you tell us how much of this input stuff is going to go to the Mark I users? Because we had a viewer asking about that early on in the. Is the vocoder in the Mark I?
Gates, that's it. We can
The-
do side chain gates.
Side chains and gates will be there in the
Okay, we
Mark
can
I,
do
yeah.
side chains, gates, probably the same with the same interface. Yeah, but the vocoder obviously is not possible because
It still sounds like some great added functionality.
final
Okay.
thing here. Yeah, well, it's obviously has all the like. It can be controlled via MIDI.
Yep.
So I can launch into a sequence like from the sequencer.
Or DAW.
Or your DAW or
or
whatever.
DAW or whatever, and or the analog sequencer with CVs and triggers. But those are also assignable to everywhere on the synth. So it's a similar interface as we had with the mod design, because we developed this mod design engine already. So why not port it over to? So here, yes, we've got different modes for the CVs and triggers. There's 3 CV inputs, 3
There's
trigger
three.
inputs.
There's 3
Yeah, on the
CV.
back,
yeah,
on the
here.
back there, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. 3 CV and
fantastic.
3
So
trigger
there's
inputs, yeah.
there's like volt per octave modes. There's different parameter modes. You can select one of the modes and then use this, click, turn knob. I don't know, turn this knob. Boom, assign. Turn this knob. Yeah, and you can use the CVs, incoming CVs to get even more modulation or so.
So this thing plays very friendly with all kinds of different external equipment. It seems like
Yes, yes.
it could just be like some sort of like a key step thing, or beat step, or your modular, or your DAW, or whatever it is that you have. Old drum machines, anything. It seems like this really gets along with everything.
And one more thing we can show now. This switch here, it says sleep.
Yep.
It's a way of switching off the synth, so your ears get a little bit of quiet time.
I forgot
like
how beautiful the strobe discs are, even standing
yeah.
still.
So yeah, when you put it in sleep mode,
Yep.
you have the little parking brake sign on. The synth is ready to go. You can even you can wake it quite quickly.
Yep. Get back to it.
That's it. So I guess we couldn't really touch the sequencer and the
Yeah, but
vocoder.
that's another.
And I think that's
It's
So
also,
that's
honestly, I
another-
can't believe how many features this thing has.
Yeah.
And they're all great.
Yeah.
In my opinion, really the coolest thing is that I mean, this obviously it's the case when you're working with a VST synth or something, but it's an analog box, 3 voices and separate amp envelope with variable shapes and types, and totally flexible controls for that. 3 independent pitch envelopes, 3 independent filter controls. The modulation section is just bananas, like it's crazy. And you can run, for example, assign the arpeggiation engine to only to go to voice 1. You can do the sequencer to only voice 2, and you can trigger voice 3 from the external, you know. So
It's just, it's
like
honestly
so much stuff.
mind-blowing,
Yeah,
man.
we're currently
So much
working on a preset collection that will hopefully
Demo.
drive that point home. You know,
If
it will go from simple, you know, lead pads to, you know, things that are almost a full track. You know.
Yeah, well, I think it can be helpful to show that stuff, to
Yeah,
show the
yeah,
range
yeah,
of an
yeah,
instrument,
yeah,
right? You can go here, or you can go way out there,
yeah,
and
yeah.
anywhere in between, you know?
So I think maybe that's a good way to end this, just to play the folks out with a few presets that we have
Yeah,
currently
yeah.
prepared.
Do it, man. What a treat, guys.
Unless there's some other questions.
I think we, yeah, aren't we afraid that Behringer will copy you? I mean,
have at it, guys. I don't think
hope,
that's going to
I hope
happen.
they will try. I want to see how far they will get with it.
Oh, man, of course.
Bring it on, Behringer.
Yeah, of course.
You need to decide the best question.
Oh, yeah?
Oh yeah, the best
man.
question. Thanks,
How about
Matisse.
I'll play some stuff,
Yeah.
play some presets.
But I know which is my favorite question is about the misery of MK1 users. It was I really like that one. So we'll get in touch with whoever
Which one was
commented that. About
How miserable from a scale of 1 to 10?
yeah, MK1's
well,
users should feel.
Like in general, or just because of the synth?
Like about life in general and things in their world, you
I
know?
mean, like, how deep do you want to go with this question?
I have a couple questions for you guys. When are you guys going to be back in Los Angeles? It's always good to see you guys.
Definitely here in April, because that's the NAMM show.
April, of course. April,
Yeah.
man, it's in April now.
Now-
If anyone
yeah,
wants
yeah,
to
it
meet
is.
us in LA in April, we're open. Our schedule is kind of empty for now.
Why is
I also just want to say, you know,
Oh, yeah.
we're all so impressed with you guys and your team. You've made unbelievable products.
Cool graphics.
And also, I would say, refreshing products. Things that really stand out as different and also sound really great.
I mean, with
It's
this,
refreshing. I'm excited to see what you guys do next. This is mind-blowing.
yeah, with this
Yeah.
this kind of company name, we really have no other choice.
You have no choice. You can't come out with
put ourselves
an
into a
overdrive
corner,
pedal only, you know? It's like it has to be something that has lightning in it, you know? Obviously, I'm referring to your plasma distortions, but
I also really wanted
Yeah.
to show you this, but unfortunately it's locked.
it is clearly locked as I'm
Yeah.
seeing a padlock on
Yeah,
the screen.
it's locked. Yeah.
Okay, that was a joke. But listen, yeah. I don't know, yeah, let's play. I'll show some presets.
Well,
that have.
should we announce who won the question? What do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, I
Is it
have
good
to
with
look
this
up who made that comment. Let me see. Yeah, it was a viewer who goes by the name of Dave.
Dave.
Dave,
But yeah,
congrats! you get a
let's show-
T-shirt.
Let's show the
Right.
shirts.
We'll get in touch with you.
Dave gets a shirt.
That's Mike's.
Oh yeah, Dave. Yeah.
Okay.
Alice, our colleague who is in charge of all things video and content, will sort this thing out. Amelia is now grabbing the shirt as we're listening to.
A nice pattern here.
Yeah, simple preset.
Yeah.
A simple preset. We're working on a presets now, and we already come up with a bunch. But yeah, more to come.
By the way, yeah, we wanted to give you a shirt anyway.
Thank you
We've got a bunch of shirts
Thank
there
you.
for the crew
I
here.
love it. I love
And
it.
this is the design that, you know,
The motor synth.
this is the cool design that that question got.
Dave's in luck, man. I love it.
Yeah, so anyway,
you so much,
there's
guys.
A bunch
This is
of, There's
great.
a bunch of them for you guys.
Thank you, guys. This is a treat, man.
All right, so let's leave
Let's
the
play something.
Yeah.
leave the reverb on. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you need a delay?
No. Just
Okay.
yeah. So we'll show some sounds.
Thank you guys for watching. Yeah, Ilya is going to do an improv for you all, and we're going to mute the mics now. Thanks for the questions. If you have more questions, just write to the address, email address that was just posted in the comments. It's info@gamechangeraudio.com. It's been Ilya Kruminch from Gamechanger Audio, Eli here from Rosen Sounds, and me, Tom, from Gamechanger Audio as well.
Thank you so much, Matis. Thank you guys. We love seeing you guys and love hearing what you guys are working on. It's always fantastic. So it's a real treat to see you guys today. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for watching, guys. And, yeah, thanks, Eli.
Thanks, guys.
All right, like,
Let's hear something. Let's hear some magic.
Yeah, presets.
Mute the mics.